You're attracting some serious, serious attention right now. Perhaps you have been for some time, but it's serious in this very hour. I would say you have a lot of eyes on you, but I was corrected in that channeling because it's not even so much about the quantity of the attention or the magnitude as it is about the intensity of it. And what I saw is that this intensity is balanced between two different polarities, ranging from adoration and admiration to hate and rage, and everything else in between, perhaps, but certainly a presence of at least those two. So again, it's not a matter of how many, although for some it is. It's really about the intensity of this focus. Now, for those that are looking upon with admiration and with being inspired, there is an interest in wanting to connect in the most sincere ways, to collaborate, create, to be of some benefit or support to your endeavors, perhaps to connect romantically or platonically, to get to know you better, to pick your brain even, to run some things by you, to see how you're doing. A lot of extremely high positive vibes on the one end, and on the other end, I mean, needless to say, you can imagine, with your best fantastical mind, you can imagine without me having to spell it out. And I really thought that was the extent of the preview message for the most part, that there's this hyper focus on you at this time in a range of different ways and a range of different intensities. And really, with you being, of course, the centric focus, not to be particularly moved by either one, to be honest, to be quite indifferent to either side, and just continue to do what you do, because obviously it's doing something right, or you're doing something right. But then I looked over at my phone just as I was about to get started, and I noticed that on today's calendar, on the iPhone, it tells you, what's the holiday today or the special day. And I saw the holiday Ashura, and I'm like, I've seen it before, but I wasn't sure what that actually was. So I'm like, okay, let me look into that. And it's a Muslim holiday, the 10th day of Muharram, I believe. Now, I ain't gonna pronounce none of this right, probably, so charge it to my Americanism, not to my heart. But then as I'm looking into it, I see that there are two different observances, or traditions, I should say, depending on your particular come from, or what's the right word I should say. There are two different traditions, so it's observed and celebrated in two different ways. So for the Shia Muslims, it's like a day of mourning and almost like memorial and reverence for the fallen grandson of the Prophet Muhammad during some war at a particular time, a long time ago, 680 CE to be exact. I don't even know what CE is. And then for the Sunni Muslims, it's actually an observance and celebration of more of joy and gratitude as the day, get this, that Allah parted the Red Sea, saving the prophet Moses and the Israelites from Pharaoh. So we have on one day, one religion, one celebration, two different polar opposite observations and expressions and celebrations of the same thing. And so I was thinking, like, wow, first I was like, well, maybe it's just two different energies, which it never is, and I know that, but I didn't expect to really necessarily gain a connection through the pre-channeling. But from what I surmised just off the top, it's like almost like a depiction or even a confirmation of this polarity that I was picking up, of energies that are observing you. Get into it, because this is being channeled real time. This isn't even really what I sat with for very long. So there's two different energies, and like I said, you being the centric focus and there being something that you're doing to be so highly attractive and polarizing, quite literally. And let me also say, what I didn't mention is that this is just not attention in the physical or natural sense. It's very much so spiritual as well, which makes sense that I was drawn to see that religious holiday, and it's an observance in the way that it is, makes a clear connection. So anyway, there is a distinction here between your emergence, whatever that is, your evolution, your ascension, your transcendence, your introduction perhaps even to the world as some evolved being or as some whole self that gives some a cause for celebration and jubilation, and others a cause for vengeance and rage and resistance. Now, the good thing is that all of it works in your favor. That's the beauty of all of this, which is why I said it's really a call to stay indifferent for the most part and just stay focused and devoted to whatever it is that you're doing. Because those that are these intensive energies in the most positive sense are looking for a way not only to collaborate, create with you, advance you, add value to you, protect you, and I'll tell you what I saw quickly in a second as well. Protect you, co-create with you, maybe procreate with you. There's nothing but good intentions on the side where it should be. And so those energies are working overtime to figure out ways to present, to connect, to make some type of proper alignment, or I don't know what you call it, in order to advance not only your agenda, but the one that they may also see is a mutual benefit for themselves. And the other energies that are working overtime to be as resistant to that as possible somehow are actually amplifying that positive force that much more. So it's like the more active this side gets, the more intensified this one does. So although there could be hella darts coming at you, maybe, as I was saying before, those eyes could be evil on one polarity of this spectrum, there's just as much adoration and love and admiration on the other side that is supercharged in such a way that not only does it ultimately outrank and what's the right word, cancel out this negative energy and on this side of the scale, but it fully consumes it and transmute it for its own purposes of advancement, to help its cause in helping you and supporting you and powerfully and positively and prosperously impacting you. So it's literally like all things working together for your good, even though it's not for the sake of trying to be quite obstinate. Because another thing that I had seen was, well, I heard, I guess, saw, you know how it goes, is that there are those on the side here that really, really love you, but there are even those on the side that hate on you, still somehow can't help but love you as well. Still can't help but at least respect you, you know, even through gritted teeth. So with that cognitive dissonance and that side of the force field, as I said, that still contributes to advancing you in a very powerful way and in a way that is not intended to be, quite honestly. So, you know, here it is again, even still with that malintention or misdirected intention, the truth remains that this exaltation of you as a whole self, as a supreme being, is from what I believe is what is the, you know, occasion of the hour, is a day for celebration and joy and gratitude for some, and it's a day of mourning and sadness and disappointment, maybe even grief for others. So I don't even know where we're going after this, to be honest, but we're going to use Intuitive Kev's Kipperish deck to do it. I'm Danae. What's up, y'all? Hope you're doing well. Happy Friday. It's Friday, almost said Friday, Tuesday. So maybe Tuesday is significant for somebody. But it's Friday, June 26th. Is that right? Is it the 26th? Yeah, it is. June 26th, 26. Ain't that something, y'all? So that's 6/26/26. Even that, it has a resonance, if you feel me. And it is 2:40, did I just see on the clock, which is also a 6. Is it still 2:40? It's 2:41 now, which is the 7. So there was one other thing I wanted to say, and it's just a quick blurb, so don't feel like, you know, I'm about to drag it. But when I was in pre-shuffle and meditation, and I was hearing, you know, like I said, I was corrected in the spirit that it's not necessarily a lot of eyes, because I was like, there are a lot of eyes on you at first. But then when I was getting set up, I was like, I got this flash of the picture, you know, the depiction of what angels, you know, are said to look like. Really, like not the fantastical depiction of them as we know them, you know, through lore and legend, but I've seen pictures of how they look with like multiple, like mad eyes, you know, and wings and stuff, of course, but just like eyes everywhere. And I don't know if there's any truth to that or where that depiction was even sourced from, but I know you know what I'm talking about and you've probably seen it. And that's what I had a flash of. So whether that's a realistic perspective or projection or not, I think it was just an extra nod to the supernatural surveillance, if you will, that you are under, which ultimately is protection, right? So, you know, as I was saying, it's like high, I don't know if I said this, but like high level energies that are attracted and observant at this time. and in spirit and in flesh. So that could be people in the flesh that have high power positions or a lot of influence, a lot of pull, very abundant in resource, or opportunity or whatever. It could look like a lot of things in the natural. And in the spirit, you know, of course, it's even more expansive and infinite than that. But just remember this point, you know, which is an affirmation of how unlimited and intangible, you know, to some degree, this level of coverage truly is. And of course, that being also resource to you as well, that there are angels watching. And then, not for nothing, I opened this deck and I was like, is this what we're using? Because it wasn't until the very end when I finished channeling my black and white cards on the side with the star card on top, mind you. I'll show you because I can't even, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's that. But I knew I wasn't using that deck today, and I pulled this one out and I'm like, am I using this one? And it was like, yeah, okay, clearly we are. All right, I was about to cut these anyway, but I'm glad I didn't, so that I could just show you that little receipt that it's serious. Whatever it is for you, it's serious. Like how protected. And you know, we're coming up on a full moon this Sunday, I believe, and that's in Capricorn. The energy, I feel like it's a mixed bag. Like, it's definitely a heavy transit, but I also feel like it's a liberating one as well, which makes sense in alignment with what I'm saying here, you know, about what I was channeling, and also even with the holiday today, you know, that for some it might be the beginning of the end, and for others it's an end to begin again. So there's that. Take that as you will. All right, let's see what we got here. Kev with the monster deck. All right, let's see. Twin flame. No way. Oh, and you know what I know is under here? Because obviously I put the cards away. The lovers. So twin flame. Okay. All right. So there's some maybe a partnership, a union, could be soulmate energy that we're talking about. That could be the fleshly projection of it, or aspect of it, I should say, of just something high level, intense, you know, really important, significant to your path and to your advancement. But let's see what else. That's a lot, but well, I'm just gonna take these two. But the priestess, ooh, and transition. Didn't I say? I feel it. I feel it. I feel the energy. Now, as it is with transition, you know, now the picture itself, like the illustration, is very, very clear and distinct. But transition in general is change. Let me see what this is. Awakening. See, this is the polarity right here. So some may be getting a rude awakening on account of the elevation of something that, like I said, this twin flame and the priestess is like something very very anointed is what I'm getting. Again, it could be partnerships, it could be opportunities, relationships, it could be individuals, it could be collectives, like, but something that the anointing is being poured out. That's what's happening. And everybody is in that flow, whether you like it or not. but I feel like there may be something about like your conduciveness to, here it is, to absorb that flow and integrate with it, that determines how it materializes or actualizes through your waking life. So if you're in a particular alignment or vibrating on a frequency that's conducive with an upgrade or an intense infusion, so to speak, then it's only going to be, that much more progressive for you. But if you perhaps are vibrating on a lower frequency and your circuits are not quite ready, it'll be literally like a hair raising event or shock to the senses, of which will either cause, like I said, or maybe it was yesterday I said, that it'll either cause some to just their vessels, and maybe even mentally or psychologically, to just completely be overloaded and give way, or a jolt of awakening, like a lightning bolt. So especially for those that are being awakening in this way, where for anybody it's a hair raising event, no matter what frequency you're really on, but especially if you're resistant to it. It's one thing if you go looking for it, and that's what this is probably given to with the twin flame. You made a choice to devote yourself to sanctification, or just being as your best self is the most primitive way to say it, but really devoting yourself to a supreme nature, integrity, following the path that you feel guided to, deep soul searching and self-improvement and rearranging of your life, deconditioning and reconditioning, so on and so forth. All of that, like I said, it can be very deep, mystical and spiritual, even religious, if that's what you're into. It can happen through that way if you're careful with it. Or it can be as practical as can be and still have a deep resonance, But the reality of it is that there are some that signed up for that, and even still it's a bit of a shock, the transition of it all. But there are some that still are, kicking and screaming all the way, or maybe at least up until a certain point before they surrender or submit to an awakening, to change, to transformation. Oh, this is transition. I was thinking transformation, which the death card is really what that gives, But yeah, definitely speaking about transition, and that's even more literal than the transformation aspect. That's a bit more round. All right, well, let's keep going. Divination, as my nose starts itching like crazy. Yeah, it's about awakening to it's awakening to when I'm seeing divination, it's like that channel that gets opened in you when you do have an awakening, that at first feels a bit chaotic and ungrounded, until you come to a point of settlement, either with whatever it is that's being revealed to you, or whatever you're being led and guided to observe, discover, investigate, inside and out, but it's something quite jolting when you come to a personal realization of just how much power and authority, and therefore accountability, you have for yourself and for the very affluence and prominence that most of us in the natural desire to have or achieve or obtain. So again, for some that have come to a certain point of actualization from realization, it feels celebratory to perhaps graduate to a new level of, I keep saying prominence or affluence, particularly in the spirit, where you feel that much more confirmed and consciously confident of who you are, of what you're capable of, what you are deserving of, what you are destined for or destined to be, or what and who you embody. And then certainly that confidence is supported when there is a belief and a knowing that there are supernatural forces that have an invested interest in your well-being. When you know that much, and it's so, I'm getting chills, like when you know that without a shadow of a doubt, even in our human existence, like I was saying before about these dual natures that we're kind of existing in the midst of, you could know that, like I said, you got arrows flying. There's a scripture about that. 10,000 on my right. I think that's David. 1,000 will fall at my right, or something about arrows or something. I'm sorry, but let me look it up because it always matters. 10,000 fall. Okay, here it is. Psalms 9:17. Of all the scriptures, the Psalms, go figure, the songs speak to me the most. I promise you, if there is actually, and this is not blasphemous, this is just me being open-minded, but if I wouldn't be surprised to know, at least in spirit, that if there is an actual King David, that there has to be some relation. Like, there has to be. I feel too much affinity for that character. 1,000 may fall at my right, at your right side, 10,000. Oh, can I get the whole scripture? 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see. I didn't even know it was getting this. You will only look with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked, because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, no scourge come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone. Oh, hallelujah. That's Psalms 91, verse 7 through 12. Now, tell me that wasn't necessary. Everything from the preview to now, that makes sense. So, yeah, as I said, I had this vision of an angel with all these eyes. And like I said, there's heavy energy in the atmosphere, but there's heavier hitters in the divine realm that ain't gone. They ain't gone. And they're not. And here's the transition and transformation energy that I was talking about, that everything that even means to be an oppositional force is ultimately going to be transmuted and almost like recruited to do the bidding of the divine in this hour when you are in alignment for it. Now, like I said, if you operating in accordance with that lower nature, then you may be scathed, you may be hurt, you may be bruised, or like I said, awakened to the point of a very rude one where now you have the choice, look at this, between these two, to kind of get, to follow those inclinations wherever they lead you. And divination as an aspect doesn't have to be tarot cards. It doesn't have to be anything mystically that you're uncomfortable with, but it's about taking a deeper dive into you and into the matters of you that are beyond just the surface and what you can see and what you've been told or conditioned to believe is true. Because a lot of times, for a lot of spiritualists, I mean, by God, the priestess is on here, so I can't skirt around it with so much. But for a lot of spiritualists in this expression, the awakening did happen in a way such as this, where you was looking crazy, and it was the divination that grounded you, that gave you comfort when nothing else in your life could, answers and certainty and confirmation and affirmation in a way that no one else could or would. And as a matter of fact, you may have had a lot of opposition against those decisions and discoveries before you were able to encourage yourself to stay the course, or not, or because divination doesn't have to be an eternal thing. And in a lot of ways, like I'm always reminded, sometimes, well, not always, but sometimes I'm reminded about Shavi Zane's testimony about how she was a Christian, then she became a Hebrew Israelite. Now she's very much so, a seer and a spiritualist and a prophetess in her own right. And she, doesn't totally discount any of it, because she recognizes that they were stepping stones to her finding her own voice. And she'll still pull out the Bible sometimes. She reads it differently, than some strong Christians may be comfortable with, but she pulls out the Bible. It doesn't bother me, as a matter of fact, I get it. And her Hebrew Israelite time is what really refined her voice and her courage, her boldness to speak out loud, and her confidence in who she feels designed to be. And then that translated over into her own evolved personal practices, where everything, all the stepping stones, the deaths of old selves and the generations of something new and evolved, like it all had to be, it all matters. And if there may be even much more to come, I guess, if you're lucky in this breath of life. So anyway, let's keep on going. Oh, that's way too many, but that's the child. Let's see. Yeah, that's the, oh, look at this. Yikes. Oh yeah, this going back in there. This is that other side that might want to get it together before this wave. I mean, it might already be too late in the sense of before this wave, because I feel like this is a right now kind of message. Like, this is happening in real time, especially given the energy that we're in for this full moon, and this being a transitional season of sorts, like time into a transitional season. We just had the summer solstice. We are having the last new moon was quite pivotal. The last month was very pivotal. And now, like, a lot of things are coming out in the wash that would have needed to kind of be, like, rectified or at least recognized before you get to the point where now it's like somebody's literally waking you up out of a deep sleep. Nobody's ever had, and not pleasantly, like wake up energy, or you so damn sleep that you can't, like passed out, like you can't be woken up. Those are the two options here. But for energies with entity attachments, thief, that ultimately originates from childhood wounds. That's what this card is given in this sequence. Unresolved childhood wounds or traumas, that now have become full grown entity attachments that are ultimately, kind of taken, what's the right word? Or occupation of vessels, to the point where, like I said, is either, you too far gone on the dark side, at least at this time, to be awakened and transition to any light perspective. Or even still, if you are, by God, able to be awakened, it still doesn't feel good to the senses, because it feels like a force, it feels like a necessity for survival, as opposed to just like a personal choice. Like I said, some went seeking after enlightenment and they ain't necessarily even know what they was looking for. But I mean, I could speak to that firsthand. I started pursuing enlightenment way back in my 20s when I was living in New York. Before I had a baby, I was in my late 20s, but that's when it really started, like something clicked in me that I needed to look deeper. I needed to search further. I needed to reach higher. And it starts with usually self-help and, looking at ways to just like advance your personal self more. Like I said, on the surface, losing weight, eating differently, reading all types of books for personal development. That's what I should say. Development, not really help, but more so personal development. Think and Grow Rich and The Power of Now and The Secret and like stuff like that. And I've read all types of books, okay? Like anything that was a recommendation of how to be better, I felt like I scoured that thing like it was the Bible. Calling in another one, what was it? Calling in the One or something like that, I read. So it starts with that, like doing what you can do at your, at your own will and might to be better. That's why I was saying it can be as practical as you want it to be, but it can be as deep as it can get, and it can be deep as the abyss. Shoot, I'm still I'm still digging, if you feel me, and reaching at the same time. But yeah, started there. And like I said, I didn't know there was a catalyst I can speak to for sure, but that's another story for another day. But I didn't really know what I was aspiring to. I just knew I wanted better. I wanted more. I wanted to fully love who I saw in the mirror and who I was projecting myself to be, and so on and so forth, and be better than my the projection, my limited scope of potential at that time. Like, how could I stretch beyond that, and then, like I said, eventually you keep on going and you'll find yourself at a point where you either going to continue on, and it is very scary to move past that certain point of awakening. Like, some don't ever make it past that rude awakening, where it may look and maybe even feel to you as if you're having a mental breakdown. Like something snaps and all of a sudden, like, everything is illuminated, everything is clear. But having all of that perspective at once, like a veil is lifted from your eyes at once, to see the dark and the light. It's like literally being somebody turning the lights on and you can see your supporters and your haters all in one room. It's really shocking. It's very shocking. And then to see like the people that you expected to be on that supporter side, nowhere to be found, and the people that you never would have expected to be on your hater side, they're chomping at the bit, just waiting for their next opportunity to, bust shots, pretty much, for lack of a better term. What do they say? Throw rocks, at least, and hide their hands. Anyway, all of that is very shocking. And it's at that point that's a deal, like a make or break point, very pivotal as to whether you're going to get scared and run back to what was familiar, but uncomfortable now that you know what you know, or whether you're going to keep following that path and seeing where the divine takes you. Even when you got people screaming behind you on the left and on the right, telling you, no, you're going the wrong way, or oh, you shouldn't do that, or I would, that's not of God, that's not right. We love you. We've always been here for you. This and in some cases that much may be true, but it comes a point in time on your own personal journey of evolving into that supreme self where you can only go it alone. And the more people similar to, wasn't that, oh no, that was Abraham that tried to take Lot with him, similar to Abraham situation, where you try to take people along for the ride, and it'll actually delay your arrival, and it'll make things far more complicated along the way. Now, of course, you don't have all that intel as you're at that pivotal moment. You are faced with the choice to either release everything that you've ever known, and sometimes everyone and every place that you thought was comfortable and safe, for something that is completely mysterious and mystical with no guarantees. You got to be a special person to exercise that level of faith against all odds. And this is given way, like with the twin flame being that powerful, discerning choice making, supreme choice making ability asserted in a priestess energy for the purposes of the transition, like I said, where you don't know if you're coming or going, for real, until you're well on your way, and it's almost too late to even look back at that point. And then you still got to decide how to proceed, because the higher you go, the deeper you go, the greater the obstinate influences are against you. As I said, like they become more and more aggressive, more resistant, more conniving, and not to like really demonize it, because it's really just a matter of resistance for your development, in the grand scheme of things. But to the human eye, here it is, that's very scary and fear inducing. And it almost works to make you question whether you're going the right way at all, when you are all along. But the voices that are in your corner and supporting your progression seem to be much quieter at certain points in your journey than the ones that are screaming against it, because you're still learning to refine those voices, like the sound of those voices in your spirit, even when they're at a whisper level, to know, like, if you got 10,000, like I said, arrows flying at you, or 10,000 voices condemning you, that's that still small voice within you that is saying, no, keep going, you have to somehow know that's the one that I follow. And who does that naturally? You know what I mean? Not many. That's why it's many are called, but few are chosen, simply on account of the fear of choosing yourself and trusting yourself when there's so much against you and when the stakes are so high. So again, this duality or polarity of forces, the ones that are cheering are excited because you've must be reaching or have reached a prominent level of affluence, at least in the spirit, if nothing else. And those that are jeering against you is because it's like you slipped out of the grips. And also, you can look at it as just like that last ditch effort to really try you, because that's what they're here to do, like they're on their job because, to see if their efforts are effective. And I can imagine that they're not. Look, an Earth Angel comes out again with 8-8 boss. Oh my goodness. And I can imagine that they're not for the ones that resonate with this energy. With the most positive frequency of this energy. You've been promoted, upgraded, or are being so. Once again, there's that boss energy, those eyes on you. That 8-8 want to give new opportunities. That's also abundance. Want to perhaps help you create or be a creator of ways to advance and prosper this supreme energy in ways that'll be beneficial, again, like mutually beneficial. It's like even the angels see a mutual benefit, so there's nothing wrong with people observing and saying, I need that person on my team, or I need their insight, I need their eyes, I need their expertise, their gifts, their passion, their spirit. I've been on jobs where I know the greatest value of my presence was my spirit more than it was even my performance. And it's not to say I didn't do a good job, but I know that people really, the ones that did anyway, most did. And like I said, even my biggest hater, who was my boss, had to secretly be a hater because he really admired me and really, low key was a little bit jealous, But for the most part, he appreciated the energy that I brought to, as much as he appreciated, well, I'll put it this way, as much as he kind of hated a little bit on the energy that I brought to the company, because he kind of wanted to be the keeper and the projector of that energy himself. Just pretty much that. He wished that he could have been the one that people love to see coming for work that day and like to talk to and chit chat with and eat lunch with and so on and so forth. He wanted to be that person. And as much as he wished that he could have and kind of hated on me because he wasn't, he also had to be grateful for the energy that I brought to that space that was, transformational, not only to change the environment once I got there to something different, but how I consistently, like it was a constant frequency, that was resonant on the days that I was present. I know it. He knew it. Many people experienced it even if they didn't know what it was. And that's the type of energy that I'm talking about, where it can be on a practical level and it can be on a very spiritual level, but there's something that you bring with you, that you carry in your being, that's undeniable, that is infectious in many ways. It's provocative as well. And no matter whether there is celebration of it or confirmation of it or resistance and opposition to it, it doesn't change the frequency of its potency, the magnitude, I guess, of its potency. and the consistency, literally, like the substance of it and the dependability of it. No matter what the circumstances, like I said, you could have 100 things going wrong with you, and you might lose your footing a little bit emotionally, but you always, this is like temperance. You're always going to find your way back to that center. And that's an energy that is rare. It's hard to maintain, and you certainly can't force it upon anyone or to anyone to actualize within themselves, and you certainly can't fake it either, which there lies a lot of the provoke and resistance, is that as much as this boss energy in the lowest frequency, the shaky frequency, would want to be able to absorb that for themselves and assert it, they have to go their own way to achieve it and obtain it by their own right. And that's the process that a lot of folks, like I said, you come to that pivotal moment, or even before then, to even go against the grain, to do something different, unconditional, perhaps, but unconventional and untraditional, maybe something different than what your family would support or would like to see for you. Maybe something different than what you were religiously groomed to do or believe, or culturally taught, and so on and so forth. To have that level of courage first is the initial step. And then to stay the course, most people don't want to do that. They want this part, the power, the influence, the privilege, the affluence, the authority, but they don't want to go through the motions, climb the ranks, so to speak, that conscious ladder as opposed to the corporate ladder, to actually achieve or to have that spiritual success. Damn, that's so crazy. This is so deep to me. So anyway, this just confirms, like I was saying, there's some type of elevation or upgrade that's underway. As some things are faltering, maybe the old you is being laid to rest, or ideals that you may have held about yourself or that others may have held or tried to continue to, circumstances and situations that are outdated and literally expired. Whatever the case may be, it's a transition into some elevated ideal of life, not just ideal, but realization of life, that is not only putting you in a higher position of authority, like giving you yet another clearance to access, but it's also putting you in alignment with others that are either on your level or may even have a higher level to promote you to, or to make space or pathway to for you to prosper in. It's so confirming from the pre-shuffle. I can't believe we ended on Earth Angel and Boss. Like, Bliss. Oh my gosh. Lord. I mean, with the rainbow in the back. I don't know what to say. I literally feel lost for words. It's just emotion. It's just a welling in me right now. distant future. And I'm seeing that this is what look at the pathway. This is saying that this is the distant future. This is the projection of the future. Just bliss as far as the eye can see. And even beyond. And on account of the fact that, as I said, you got heaven, hell, earth, and every other thing else working, whether they mean to or realize it or not, working for your good. Everything is working in accordance to bringing about the divine design for your life, which is to prosper you. In every way, shape, and form, in spirit and in flesh. It is so, and so it is. Bliss as far as the eye can see. And like I said, some are excited about that because they get to go along the journey with you. Angels, ancestors, way showers, guides, family, friends, co-workers, strangers you meet in the street get to glean off an energy that vibrates like this. They don't even know what they're encountering. They don't even know what they're experiencing, but they know they like it. And for those that are resistant to this realization and reality, they don't even realize that they're being blissed in the process as well. And hopefully they will, and they'll be grateful for it in their own regard. And worst and best case scenario, as they will transition on to some other space and time that is not yours or mine, where there can be no more unjustifiable interference. And if there's a choice to live out days in darkness, then so be it. And it'll be of no consequence to those that choose to live in light and love, no matter what. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.